Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Early on Sunday, July 3rd, while most of us were resting up for our Independence Day weekends, Sergeant David Elahi was conducting highway safety patrol measures in Sterlington, Louisiana, a city which I represent. That morning, a drunk driver struck and killed David while he was conducting a traffic stop. The driver injured two other officers as well. David was only 28 years old. Communities in Ouachita Parish and the surrounding areas are still reeling from David's death because, according to all accounts, he was just a great guy. He was a family man who left behind a 2-year-old daughter and his fiancée, who is expecting a child in January. That shift was supposed to be David's last full-time shift with the Sterlington Police Department. He was planning to retire, to take care of home, go back to a business that he had started, wanted to improve it, but he didn't get there. I rise today because our nation needs to know about David. They need to know that he was a model citizen pursuing the American dream. He was proud of his family. He was proud of his church. He was proud of his home, and he was proud of the service he provided. You know, last week was a dark week in our nation. The deaths in my home state of Louisiana, as well as those in Texas and Minnesota, have once again thrust into the forefront a debate on the role our law enforcement officers play in policing our communities. There have been calls to harm our police, and our man in Dallas did just that. For the first time in history, graphic scenes from our streets are being live streamed on the internet. People are reacting sometimes in violent ways. All loss of life is tragic. More violence is not the answer. When tragedies occur, we must fully investigate them and hold accountable any who acted wrongfully. But even when bad things happen, we cannot let these events define who we are and in recent ways divide us. Most of us want the same things to provide to our families, to better our communities, and to serve our God. The Bible tells us that patience is a virtue, and we must use that wisdom today as we seek answers to questions everyone in society is asking. For me, personally, I believe the overwhelming majority of our police officers are just like David. They serve because they want to make a difference. They want to make their communities a better place. They are there and they serve simply because they care. I would encourage everyone listening to take a deep breath and reflect on the services of David Elahi. I want you to think about how he served his community. I want you to think about his fiancée, his daughter, and the child who will never know him from this point on. And I want to remember that family members of all our law enforcement officers share the intimacy and intimacy of the public safety that they want to provide. And I also want to think about those officers in Dallas who lost their lives in the line of duty and how their fellow officers ran toward the gunfire while others ran away. That's why our officers are due. That's why they keep us safe. No institution is perfect. People like David do not deserve to be vilified because they chose to serve and protect. People like those officers in Dallas didn't deserve to be marked for death because they were simply police officers. They did their duty and they were killed because of it. So thank a law enforcement officer today for what they do for you and for me. Thank their families for their self and their sacrifice. Say a prayer for David, his family, and the Sterlington community. And say a prayer for all of those who wear the badge. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.